Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday edition of Fair Territory. I'm Ken Rosenthal here with Alanna Rizzo. And Alanna, my goodness, we have a lot to talk about. The postseason has been nothing short of electrifying. It's been as good as I can remember, at least to this point of the postseason. We have a Game 5 coming up in LA. We have the Mets thing going. We have the Tigers thing going. We have the Yankees potentially clinching today as well. Let's get into it.
All I can say, Ken, is OMG. If you're talking about the New York Mets, who do you think is the hotter team right now, Ken? Is it the Mets or is it the Tigers?
Actually, a great question, and one that's kind of testing your brain a little bit because it's a little bit different, obviously, what they're doing. The two teams are entirely different. One's a big payroll team in the East Coast, and one is in Middle America and kind of resurgent and coming on. The Mets have been hotter for longer. We can certainly say that. In fact, there was a tweet this morning. I can't remember who issued it, but the person said, why are we talking about the Mets as an underdog? They're 70-40 since June 2nd. 70-40. It's the best record in the majors. That's including postseason. So, yeah, they are certainly proving to be a good team over a long period of time, where the Tigers' run has been shorter. 35-14, including postseason, since August 11th. They do it in an entirely different way. It's Scooble and pitching chaos and all that. But I would say the Mets are the hotter and more formidable team right now. But that would be discrediting what the Tigers have done. And I love what the Tigers have done. It's awesome. They have a chance to clinch today as well. I don't see Cleveland rolling over, Alanna, but we could have a fun day.
Yeah, it's been tough for the Cleveland Guardians to get any sort of offense going, and give credit, of course, to the defense of the Tigers and the timely hitting that they have had so far. Don't forget to load up the questions for Grillin Ken. That's coming up here on Fair Territory momentarily. Let's talk, though, Ken, about the other side of the equation as far as the Mets are concerned. The Phillies being ousted already. And when I looked into that dugout last night after Edwin Diaz closed out the ballgame, it was an utter shock on the Phillies' faces. Are you surprised as to the way that they went out, or did they just run into a white-hot buzzsaw?
It's a little of both, Alanna. And frankly, this team has not played all that well the last 6 weeks, the Phillies. And some of their people saw this coming. They saw the offensive kind of malaise that they were in. Down the stretch, they went 11-14, including these playoff games. And what's interesting to me about this is this was supposed to be their year. If you go back to spring training, they were talking about, hey, we want the bye. The Braves don't want the bye. We'll take the bye. Well, they win their first NL East title since 2011. They had an amazing first half for the most part, and they looked like a team because of Wheeler and Nola and Sanchez and Suarez that could really go deep. And yet here they are staring at disappointment again after the elimination by the Diamondbacks last year, losing the final 2 games at home. The problem for the Phillies, and Matt Gelb of The Athletic wrote this today, it's not a young team. These are guys mostly in their low 30s to mid 30s, and every year you get older, increases the risk for injury, decline, all of that. I'm not saying the window is shrinking. It's not. They'll be good next year. We all know that. But these chances, these opportunities are precious, and that's 2 in a row now that they've really let slip away.
You look at the Phillies lineup, Ken, and apart from Nick Castellanos and Bryce Harper, obviously Bryce Harper first and then Nick Castellanos in the lineup, the rest of the team was 13 for 100. The rest of the team was batting 130 without the offense coming from Castellanos and Harper. And to your point, it's going to be the same team next year. There's only 3 of the Phillies that are free agents. Hoffman's one of those. Estevez is one of those among the 3. But this team is getting older. Do you think a 7-game series in the division series would have made a difference?
Maybe. And that's certainly something that we can discuss. And we had a little bit of a discussion on this on the Fox broadcast last night. And I've had a concern, we've talked about this, I believe, that the current format does not honor the 162 enough. That when you win the division and when you get one of these byes, you should have a greater advantage than perhaps we're seeing. The Phillies already are out. Cleveland might go out. The Yankees and Dodgers are still in a decent position, but we'll see how these series end up. If this continues year after year, where we're seeing these 6 seeds and 5 seeds rising up and knocking off higher seeds, yes, they're going to have to look at a different format. And there's this talk of a wild card Saturday or one-day wild card where you have 2 games. The higher seed has to win only 1, the lower seed 2. That shrinks the window between the end of the season and the start of the DS. There are all these things that can be looked at. But as I said on the broadcast last night as well, it's a small sample size right now. We need to see more.
All right. One thing we do know, Ken, is there will be a game five on the other side of the DS. The Los Angeles Dodgers and San Diego Padres. Dodgers showed some life last night, forcing a game five back in LA. What's the biggest takeaway from what you saw last night?
Last night to me was what my old colleague at the Baltimore Evening Sun, the late Baltimore Evening Sun, Jim Henneman used to say, it's a reverse lock. That looked like a reverse lock to me. Now, I know Cease was on short rest, and that's always problematic, but the Dodgers were throwing a bullpen game in that cauldron at Petco Park. It was not a game where I would think they were the favorite. So to see what they did jumping out offensively, Mookie getting going now, and then the bullpen, one guy after another, as John Smoltz points out, this equation, it's the same thing the Tigers are doing every day. It
Right.
only works if every guy is good. And that's what happened last night. They basically went through 8 pitchers and they pitched a shutout. Amazing. So now they go back game five, Alana. I'm interested to hear what you think about who they should start and how this might go down.
Well, I think they're going to start Yamamoto against Yu Darvish, of course, in game five. But I tell you what, the second he gets into any sort of trouble, which is kind of on my mind that it may happen because I haven't seen much from Yamamoto so far this season. I mean, he's pitched about 90, 90 innings, if that. I think that they'll have Flaherty up and ready to go quickly. And when you looked at game four, Ken, it was like, okay, it's going to be a bullpen game. And they're like, okay, we're going to throw Ryan Brazier. We're like, is Landon Knack going to pitch? And then they have Michael Kopech come in the third inning, and I'm like, who the heck is going to throw the ninth? And then you have Landon Knack at the end of the game. I mean, it just everything was just so strange in that game, but they showed me some fire. It was good to see. It's good for the sport. Game five back in Los Angeles, and it's going to be interesting too because Yu Darvish looked so good his last time out. And Yamamoto didn't look good his last time out. So I think obviously it's going to be Johnny Holstaff, and I think there's going to be a very short leash on Yamamoto. Is it fair to say that?
I think it's entirely fair to say that. And in fact, Dave Roberts indicated last night that they might do what they did yesterday again in game five to some extent. Now, they'll start Yamamoto, they'll have Flaherty available. He's going to be on a short leash, too. He hasn't exactly been dominant of late. And I can see them trying to just throw all these different looks at the Padres because to slow down that offense, maybe that's the best way to do it. That offense is incredible. Despite last night, it didn't go very well for them. What has to happen for the Dodgers to me is what happened offensively last night. Contributions up and down the lineup. They need their stars to be stars, which they were last night, Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts. And they need guys like Muncy and Kike Hernandez and whoever else is playing, because, of course, they've got some injuries. They need those guys to contribute too. Gavin Lux is looking really good as well. So it's going to be a fascinating game five. If Darvish is as good as he was in game two, forget it. It's over. And the Padres can win this thing. But, man, I don't know who I would even favor at this point. It's going to be
Yeah,
really interesting.
it is going to be interesting, and it could really go either way, which is the beauty of the whole thing. But you mentioned something about their stars needing to be stars, and you had an article on Mookie Betts. And I tell you what, I was a little nervous at the beginning of the series, but he has shown up, and the Dodgers can go as Mookie Betts goes, Ken.
Well, it's so interesting in this postseason, Alana, to see some of these stars really play at their best. Tatis has done that for the Padres, Lindor for the Mets, and now Mookie Betts finding himself. And one of the things I learned early in my career is you give these guys enough chances in the postseason, they're going to come through. But it had been a long time for Mookie that he had struggled. He wears it on his sleeve. He is as hard on himself as any player I can remember, at least any of the current group. And that makes it harder, right? It's a mental battle for him as well as physical, but he seems to have found it again. He's clicking again, and obviously that's huge for them, especially with Freddie Freeman's status so uncertain. I would be almost surprised to see Freddie Freeman in that lineup Saturday, knowing even how badly he wants to play. He's not going to do anything to hurt the team, I would imagine. It's not going to be like, I have to play. He knows where he is physically, and it's not great.
And what do you guys think, listening and watching us right now on Fair Territory? Get those questions in for Ken Rosenthal. I think, Ken, that Kike Hernandez should be in the Dodgers lineup in the postseason every single game. I'm not saying he was the reason the Dodgers won yesterday. I think it was a collective effort on a lot of different things, but there's something different about when Kike plays.
Totally, especially at this time of year. He is an energy guy. He's a bit of a leader in that clubhouse. He is someone who is not afraid of the moment. Not that the other guys are, but he embraces the moment. And we've seen that time and again in the postseason. He's got like something like 13 home runs in the postseason, some ridiculous number. So, yes, he does add something. Now, he's only in there because of the injuries, of course. But you know what, Alanna, you're right. Maybe he should have been in there earlier.
I agree, definitely. I agree with myself, if that's possible. Yes, Alanna, you're right. Kike should be in that lineup. All right, we'll be right back. Don't forget to get those questions in with a quick word from AJ Pierzynski, Scott Braun, and Eric Kratz on Manscaped.
This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. If you're looking for that fresh barbershop shave at home, introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code FOUL20 for 20% off plus free shipping.
I've had so many bad razors in my past, and you only get one face. Make it count with the latest tech in face electric shavers. I'm talking Flex Adjust technology, which makes sure the blades and pivoting head adapt to the unique contours of your face and neck to hit all the angles.
There's a travel lock so you don't hear buzzing in your bag from an accidental on-button situation. And the Chairman Pro also features an LED spotlight to help you see every detail.
Get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is smooth as a baby's butt. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code FOUL20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code FOUL20 at manscaped.com.
Time now for Grillin Ken. Load up those questions. We can ask Ken some questions before the show is over here. And the first one is in regards, Ken, to the AL Central team that's not in the postseason, the Minnesota Twins, and perhaps the idea that their ownership group is looking to sell it. What does this mean for their offseason plans? MetLife wants to know what that means for the Twins.
Good question. I don't know that it means anything for their offseason plans. They are a team with payroll restrictions because of what's going on with their local television future. You can argue that they shouldn't have these restrictions because of that the Pohlads are wealthy enough to finance a higher payroll. I'm not going to get into that right here, but yes, you can make that argument. I don't expect it to change much. What's interesting is that they're getting out at this time with this uncertainty over the future of local television revenue, and I wonder, almost, Alanna, if other teams, other owners, will see this the same way. And of course, we are all wondering what this means to the future of the sport. If MLB takes over enough of these teams, will there be enough money for these teams that were doing quite well with the regional television contracts that they had? It's going to be a new model. It's not necessarily going to be as lucrative a model, and we have seen in the past, teams don't need much of an excuse to pull back on payroll, and we're going to see this winter, I am sure, teams talking about this again.
Yeah, no question about that. Our next question in the chat is involving Tropicana and the Tampa Bay Rays. And obviously, before we even get to the question, all of our thoughts and prayers are with everybody impacted by what is going on in South Florida by Hurricane Milton, of course, just off the heels of what Hurricane Helene did. The roof off of Tropicana Field, Ken, it is gone. Are the Rays going to replace that roof? Can it even be done in time for the next season? If not, where would they play? Obviously, the new park is nowhere near being ready.
Derek, it's a little too soon for me to have answers to that. I don't know if they even put out anything about that yet. Obviously, their first concern, as it should be, is the safety of everyone and making sure they get through the storm and get through it in a way that they can go forward. Now, after that, I don't know. I don't know how fast you can fix a roof. I don't know how these things work. It seems to me it would be difficult to get ready in time for opening day, but I don't know the answer to that. And if they have to play in an alternate site, we've seen the Blue Jays play in Dunedin. We've seen all kinds of things in recent years, or different things take place. They'll figure it out, but right now the main concern, and Alanna, you mentioned this, has to be the people there and just how they're doing. We all have friends there, and it's horrifying to think of what people go through in moments like this, losing really their entire lives, their possessions, and everything that they've built toward. It just hurts, man, and it hurts for those folks, and you hurt for them.
Yeah, friends and colleagues alike obviously puts things into perspective. The next question here for you, Ken, is involving Giancarlo Stanton. You know, he's a guy that is not always in the lineup because of injury, but when he's in there in that postseason, he makes it count. Does Giancarlo Stanton's postseason success put him over the edge in Hall of Fame talks for those who are largely undecided? This question from Alex Rosario.
Alex, thank you for that. And Alana, I'll tell you a little story that's going to make you chuckle. So back in June, I was on the Yankees Dodgers broadcast, that big game in Yankee Stadium, that big series where Teoscar Hernandez went crazy. And on that broadcast, I said, if Giancarlo Stanton gets to 500 home runs, he's going to have a very interesting Hall of Fame case. Maybe 10 seconds later, Brian Kenny, my old friend from MLB Network, started blowing me up. That is ridiculous. Why don't you tell the truth? That's a repulsive argument. He's never going to be a Hall of Famer. He's not good. Well, guess what? If he gets to 500 and has some more postseason moments like he did last night, it's going to be, as I said, an interesting case. It's not a classic case, but he's going to be someone that gets seriously discussed and should get seriously discussed. Those are big numbers. Postseason matters a lot. And while he is certainly a flawed player, he is someone that is in that conversation and will be.
More perplexing to you, Aaron Judge's lack of postseason performance or Bobby Witt Jr.'s lack of postseason performance so far?
Judges, because it's not the first time. And
Right.
I'll say it again, give a great player enough chances. He's going to figure it out. Judge will figure it out. And maybe it won't be in this series. Maybe it won't be in this postseason. But eventually, Aaron Judge is going to have a big postseason. He's too good. It's not going to be a situation where he struggles forever. But with Bobby Witt, I can almost see why this is happening because Pasquantino's not 100%. The offense really revolves around Witt Jr. and Perez to a certain extent at this point, and that's a lot of pressure. And the Yankees, I am sure, are pitching him really tough. So, same thing for Bobby Witt Jr. Give him enough chances, he'll do some things big, and maybe it happens tonight.
Did you think you were living in the Twilight Zone when you saw Giancarlo Stanton steal a base yesterday?
I did. We all did. It was kind of a cool moment. And what's crazy about Giancarlo is before the injuries, before he got a little older, he was a pretty athletic guy in the outfield, on the bases. I'm not saying he was Bobby Witt Jr., but he could do some things on the field. He wasn't just this pure slugger who kind of was a lumbering guy. So, yeah, to see him do that, Freddie Freeman did it with a bad ankle the other night. These are postseason games. Guys are stepping up in ways that maybe they don't normally step up, and it's just cool to see.
Do you think that the Phillies are going to have a big offseason checklist of things that they need to fix in order to get past what happened to them this season?
I don't know, Armand. They are, as we discussed earlier, pretty much set with who they are. They're going to have to do some things in the bullpen, losing potentially Hoffman and Estevez. And maybe they'll look on the position side a little bit, second base, third base. I don't know where they are with Bohm at this point. I would imagine they're still committed to him. Stott did not have the best year. But I don't know that there's much they can do. They've spent a ton of money, made a ton of long-term commitments in the past few years. They're in a good spot. They've got some young talent coming as well. Could they go get a center fielder? I guess they could. That's one thing that possibly is missing. But to me, as we said before, I think you said it, Alana, they're going to basically bring the same team back.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to only have about 3 people that are entering the free agent market if it goes that far. All right, in The Athletic, there was a question about the greatest playoff rankings as far as ballpark atmosphere is concerned. What did you think?
Right now, and granted, this is recency bias coming into play, I go with Petco Park. Petco Park is amazing. And the other night, when they were ahead, and they had all those small things playing with the whole crowd singing and Tom DeLonge from Blink 182 going through the crowd, it was one of the coolest moments I've ever seen in any park anywhere. Now, that said, Philly is awesome. Citi Field is awesome. Dodger Stadium is pretty good. I could do without the constant noise from their loudspeakers. They need to update their sound system a little bit. But right now, I go with San Diego. Philly's out, so they don't really count. And Citi Field's been pretty cool, too.
Yeah, Citizens Bank Park is always very good, but we won't be hearing from them until next season, maybe. And then, obviously, Citi Field has been absolutely electric. I will say this, though. Petco has only been that way since about 2021. Okay. Like there's the other teams kind of have a history of this, but Petco, welcome to the party, my friends. All right.
And also Detroit sounded pretty good yesterday.
Yes.
That was pretty good.
That is very, very true. I wanted to, by the way, show off my shirt. You don't have a baseballism shirt on today, Ken, but I do. Look at this thing.
I
Long
don't. I'm on the
sleeve.
road and I forgot to pack.
Long sleeve for the for the colder. We had to turn our heat on today here in Massachusetts. Ken Rosenthal, what do you know about
Whoa.
that? Living in Arizona, but yeah. Anyway, thank you, Baseballism, for keeping me warm throughout the postseason. I appreciate that. All right, time for Dude and Dork. This is where Ken and I have an opportunity to brag on somebody that did good something over the course of the week, and the same thing with the Dork kind of leaves us scratching our head. Who is your dude?
We could go all day with some postseason heroes, and Tatis would certainly be one. But the guy I am going to go with is with the Tigers. And his home run, his 3-run homer off Emmanuel Clase the other day, I thought was the coolest moment of the postseason so far. And I know Lindor's had some big moments. But to see the look on Kerry Carpenter's face after he hit that 3-run homer, only the third player to hit a home run off Clase's slider, and to know what it meant to the Tigers. Look at it, there he is. I just thought that was the coolest thing. He's my dude of the week. No disrespect to any of the other great players performing right now. There are so many good ones, but I'm going to go with Kerry Carpenter.
All right, I'm going to give respect to Francisco Lindor for a number of reasons. If you looked at the game getting after the regular season ended, just to get them into the postseason, a huge home run there. And then the grand slam yesterday and the way that he just went about his business, Ken. Now, listen, this would have warranted a bat flip into the third deck, and I would have been fine with that. I would have absolutely applauded that. But it was just like he just took his lunch pail and, just went to work that day. Like he just had his head down, had a grand slam. I mean, what a moment for this team. Francisco Lindor has been every bit of the Mets MVP. I'm still giving nationally to Shohei just because he created a category that's never happened before. But Francisco Lindor has put that team on his back, and not only for that massive swing, but also for the tutelage and the instruction that he's helped Mark Vientos with over the course of the season, just becoming a really good third baseman. I mean, this is a guy that wasn't even on the opening day roster. Now he's an everyday player. He's had some big hits in the postseason as well. So for the leadership that Francisco Lindor has exhibited on the field and in that clubhouse and in that dugout, he is my dude of the week. Best smile in the game, one of the nicest people in the world that you will ever meet. Okay, time now for the dun 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 dun.
What is this? Oh, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the John Fisher Dork of the Week. Ken, the floor is yours.
Alanna, we're going to be in agreement on this one. I believe we've combined on a Dork of the Week this week. A first time ever for the show. A big moment, really, for us. Dodger fans who were acting up the other night. And it wasn't all of them. In fact, it was only a handful of them. But throwing things on the field is inexcusable. I know the one with Profar was a little bit playful when Profar gave the guy the ball and he threw it back, and that wasn't near Profar, but there was a lot of other things going on. And it's a safety question for the players, and it was actually handled quite well by the umpires, by Padres manager Mike Schilt. Everybody kind of stayed calm. Manny called that meeting in the dugout, just reminding the Padres players to maintain their focus. That was all handled well by the people on the field. The people in the stands, in the bleachers there, no. And that can't happen again. And I would expect for Game 5 in Dodger Stadium, the security will be ramped up as it should be ramped up. And anybody who complains as a fan in the bleachers that night, sorry, a few people cost it for all of you. And that's just the way it's going to be. So I would say the Dodger fans who acted up, I'm not going to give it to Dodger fans in general. And I'll say one other thing about fan bases. So some people will say, well, the Dodger fans are classless. And some people will say the Padres fans. No, all fans are pretty much fans. And the idea that one fan base is better or worse than another, I never buy it. I just don't. Some of the Midwest are more polite. Yes, that is true. But the idea that fans don't act up in any other city but Los Angeles or New York, no. There are idiots everywhere. And that's why those fans who were acting up the other night, Dorks of the Week.
Yeah, there is such a thing as Midwest nice. That is something that is absolutely true. But I'm with you absolutely on this. Stop throwing things on the field. It is a safety reason. It's rude. It's disrespectful. It is unacceptable. And it's unfortunately just a handful of fans that make the rest of the fan base look ridiculous. And it's just not what you do. So stop it. Stop throwing stuff on the field. Stop acting like that. Be the bigger person, take the higher road. they're getting under your skin for a reason. Just be better. Just be better. Stop throwing stuff on the field. All right, let's hear from our friends at BetMGM. We always appreciate them being here on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. Check out the new offer from BetMGM called the Bullpen Jackpot. BetMGM Sportsbook account holders who opt in to the promotion and place a straight bet of at least $10 on their choice of any MLB player to hit a home run will win a share of a daily $50,000 BetMGM bullpen jackpot if the player they wagered on hits a home run that lands in an MLB team bullpen. I love this jackpot. Prizing will be paid out in bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Ken, I wanted you to tell me your X factor for the game on Friday. It's obviously Friday, game 5 between the Dodgers and the Padres. What's your X factor?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know that I have one, but I would say the Shohei Mookie combination. Because in my opinion, the Dodgers can't win unless those guys play big. They have to hit. I don't expect the Dodgers to be able to pitch the way they did again. I don't know that I trust Yamamoto or Flaherty all that much. And then you're going to have a bullpen game kind of situation, and that's problematic. It worked great last night. God bless them. But it's difficult to pull off game after game after game, which is why the Tigers thing is such a baseball miracle. So that's what I would say, Alanna. What do you got?
Is that your what to watch for, that Shohei Mookie combination, you think?
Well, there's a lot to watch for. But that, to me, is the key, at least for the Dodgers. For the Padres, it kind of all depends on Darvish. The one good thing that happened to the Padres last night is that they didn't use their leverage relievers. It was not a situation where they needed to. The game was out of hand. So they're in good shape with their bullpen entering Saturday, and maybe they go bullpen game a little bit if Yu is not quite as good as he was in his last start.
For me, it's seeing if Kike Hernandez is in the lineup again. Also, making sure the bottom part of the order gets production as they did in Game 4. And I still think that Teoscar Hernandez is going to be my X factor. He was my X factor going into the series. He's going to be my X factor in Game 5, a winner-take-all elimination game. So good luck tomorrow on the broadcast, Ken. Obviously, you guys have it on Fox, Padres, and Dodgers. Foul Territory is next right here on the Foul Territory platform. AJ Pierzynski, Scott Braun, and Eric Kratz. And then Clint Pasillas and myself will follow after that, 3 p.m. Eastern, with a brand new episode of Dodgers Territory. And of course, Fair Territory will be back next week with Ken Rosenthal. See you later.